Hello, all you Dish and Days fans. Welcome to the Beyond Salem Chapter 2 recap and discussion. I am your host, Tony Moore, and I am joined by my gaggle of gals.
Just two gaggles today. Two gals today.
Just two gaggles. Just a gaggle.
Michael Mattis, how are you?
Hey guys, Justin Hareld here.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have enjoyed Beyond Salem Chapter 2 as much as we have. And of course, you guys make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. We are Dish and Days on Dish and Days Show on Facebook, Dish and Days on Instagram, and _ Dish and Days on the Twitter. And of course, you can like us and subscribe and follow us on our Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. So that way you can take us on all of your long walks or treadmill walks or workouts or wherever you may want to listen to us. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that subscribe button and bell notification so that way you'll never miss a video ever. Because trust me, you don't want to. And of course, buy our merch. We're additiondays.threadless.com. We've got everything from shirts to sweatshirts to towels. All of your Edition Days attire can be found there. All right, so now that we got the church announcements out of the way, we have an amazing discussion lined up for you. And before we dive into all of the mini storylines that were featured in Beyond Salem Chapter 2, we have our first special guest joining us. She has risen from the hot tub at the Body Connection to stake her claim many years later. She is the legend, the icon, and the moment.
Yes.
Miss Miranda Wilson, better known as Megan Hathaway. Hi, Miranda.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
On the show.
It was so amazing to see another Demera back rising as the phoenix as they all are. I feel like the Demeras definitely defy the terms of having 9 lives. I believe you guys have doubled, if not tripled that.
Yes.
The terms of life in general just don't apply to the Demeras. They can do anything, yeah.
But it'd be no fun if they did.
Exactly, right.
Brenda, to start off, what was it like stepping into Megan's shoes after almost 40 years?
They fit exactly the same as they fit back then. Feet haven't changed.
Right.
No, it was absolutely a joy, and it was smooth as silk. There was absolutely no adjustment needed.
Yeah.
I didn't prepare for it. I didn't sort of work out how I was going to do this or should I do that and not do that. I just kind of went, okay, so been dead for a few years and now I'm back. Therefore, nothing's changed.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
You know, it's just like I just woke up out of a really long sleep. Let's go. Let's do this thing. I want the girl dead. I want the boy in my bed.
As most people do in Salem. Yeah. Now, if we on Dish and Days, we love sort of kind of writing, rewriting, adding in, our own thoughts as far as like the characters and storylines in the show. But I wanted to ask if you could fill in the gap of Megan from the time she was found laying in the hot tub at the Body Connection to the time she popped up in Venezuela. How would you fill in that gap?
Wow.
Like, what was Megan doing as she was plotting and scheming her return?
Well, that's a tough question, I got to be honest.
Because there's a lot.
It's just not something I've really given much thought to. Off the top of my head, I'd say that, she's been involved in the scientific research so that she could do what it is that she came back to do. She spent a lot of time recovering herself. Maybe that transition that she went through wasn't all smooth and simple. Maybe some things went wrong and she had to just revitalize herself. But I would think that primarily her focus would have been on bringing everything back up to speed herself, the research, so that she'd be prepared for this moment.
Yeah. If it's one thing Demeras are, they're prepared.
For anything.
Maybe she went to the pyramids and researched the ancient Egyptian ways. Do you know what I mean? I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
There could have been a lot of things that she did. Yeah.
Nice. Speaking of, writing ourselves or writing yourself, and a lot of times we've seen with these spin-off shows that characters or actors will later come onto the main show or the mother show, or, you know. So if they were to bring you Megan back to the mother show, what would you like to see for her going forward? You've talked about what you thought her life would have been in those years, but what would you like to see for Megan if she were to decide to go back to Salem someday?
I suppose it's very general what I would say. I would love to see her being wily and cunning and the same kind of single-minded focus to everything that she does, so that regardless of what she's got her fingers in, what pie she has her fingers in, it's always very much about well done, well researched, utterly precise, and single-minded. I think the other thing that's fascinating about Megan is the two men that define her, and love the fact that Ron gave her the line, "I hate being defined by the men in my life." Love that.
Yeah.
But the two men that define her because she's so adoring of them. She's so devoted to them. She's so in love with them. So it's in fact her heart that drives her.
Yeah.
Misguided, but nevertheless. And I think that's absolutely a beautiful way to go about it, to show that side of humanity. So many of us actually have that element. We don't necessarily run around killing people because of it, but I think a lot of people have the driven by their heart element in their lives that causes them to make not such clever decisions.
Yeah.
I love that, fleshing that out. But I would like to see her I would like to see that she also has a tender side. I don't want to see her go mushy. I don't think she is mushy. I don't think she ever would be mushy. But I would enjoy seeing that tender side come out, and how would that be in a character of her kind?
Yeah. I mean, I see her as the new Stefano. That's just
exactly. And Stefano did have those, you know, for all of his dastardly deeds and whatnot, he did have the soft spot for the children in his life, and sometimes the ladies in his life. But yeah, we kind of talked we chat privately about the show, and we, you know, chat privately about Beyond Salem, and we were all like, ooh, we see Megan could be the new Stefano. Like all of those elements could be there for
absolutely
great
huge
villainess.
Yeah. Huge tenderness in Stefano.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why you were such a fan favorite and a highlight for this chapter was you were giving us very much 80s soap villain. I do want to ask, was Joe Mascalo on your mind while you were shooting your scenes, or did you think of him often during this process?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. He was a lot in the script as well. So, and I do feel like Megan does carry Stefano utterly and completely in the forefront of her mind, right next to Beau. I think that's what consumes her life. And again, going forward, if there were to be a going forward, it'd be nice if that could expand into something a little bit more broad spectrum. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the characterization would be beautiful to keep.
Yeah. Agree.
Nice.
Well, Miranda, we definitely enjoyed seeing you in Beyond Salem Chapter 2. I think you gave us everything we needed in a villain and in a Demera and more. There was, suspense. There was, nail biting. There was, oh my goodness, there were surprises. There were just everything. So,
in the words of Hope, holy shit.
Yes.
Such a perfect line.
Yeah.
Right? to end on too. It was perfect.
My favorite line, I think, in the whole show is, "I am patient."
Clearly, you had
40 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so awesome. Yeah. Well, Miranda, thank you so much for popping in. We truly appreciate your time, and thank you to everyone who brought back Megan Hathaway. I mean, she's everything and more. Whether you were watching the show back then or just being introduced to her now, we definitely want to see more of Megan.
Thank you very much. And it's been my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm glad it could work out being on the other side of the planet time-wise.
Yes, because you're in London, right?
I'm outside of London. I'm near Bath.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
My pleasure. You guys take care.
You
Bye.
too. Have a good one, Miranda.
See ya.
Bye.
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 Oh my
her.
goodness.
Love
Amazing. So now we travel over into the Montreal in heaven, as
Yes.
Justin has put it in our rundown. So much was happening between Montreal and heaven, and we have to kick things off with Bo and Angela, which I absolutely love the dynamic between those two. I mean, Angela reminded me a lot of just my mom and like how she would be, and Bo obviously has had some issues in heaven since his arrival of just like staying on task and following the rules. But it was good. It was a great like dynamic and a great segue into how he's been watching over his family, and just also the tie-in from the show when he came down and helped Ciara with the devil, and just how they tied all that in. I just love how that was all interwoven. And we got to see above and we got to see below.
Yeah, I really love their chemistry. I liked it originally. In the beginning, I was sort of like, oh, where are they going with this? So I was sort of trying to map out kind of where the storyline was going, and didn't kind of know, but I really enjoyed their chemistry together and liked their banter back and forth. And it was just so great to see Peter too. I mean, we haven't seen him in a while, and sort of when he came back, the nature of the storyline was very dour and depressing. So I think we sort of got a little bit of the older Bo that we sort of know and love, and his personality. And that was good to see.
Yeah.
This was kind of I see this as a a redo. Like I kind of saw where it was going. It did not go where I thought it was going. Final episode.
Does it ever?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But this was a definite no, because I was like, okay, this is what's gonna happen. This was gonna happen. Okay, and then she goes back. He stayed, and then Friday's episode happened. And I was like, oh, okay. Total surprise for me. So good job, Days. Either that, or I wasn't paying attention, because a lot of people thought that it was going to go the way that it actually went.
Well, see, that's the thing. Y'all can't think ahead when you're watching. You just have to be a fan with open arms and just in the moment and just take the ride wherever the ride is going to lead you.
And full disclosure, and I've said this on the show before, I was never that big a fan of Bo and Hope for whatever reason. Like, I never was. Like, I came in the mid '90s when it was Bo and Billy. Like Bo and Billy were it. So then when Hope came back and Gina and all that, I was like, who's this person coming between Bo and Billy?
Bo and Billy. And
my mom would always be like, that's Hope. Like, and was like, Hope is Hope. She can't touch anybody. But I never really, I understood why people, loved them, worshiped them. They were a super couple, huge in the 80s. But this really, like, I was just like, it gave me the feels, like the whole, the dance thing, the fact that they got the song, and not like some knockoff cheap version. Right? They got the brand name, the brand name version of this. And, the way they used it, I thought was very perfect. And they had that lovely dance. And I honestly thought it was going to go that, okay, I knew like, okay, Bo got a second chance. Hope got shot. I thought it was going to go, she goes to heaven, Bo gives her the second chance, and then that's
she goes back. Okay.
She goes back, he stays with Zach. The whole, and, earmuffs if anyone hasn't watched the last episode yet, but...
they should have before they tune in here.
I mean, you would think. But seeing that Bo is still alive, but frozen, like very Austin Powers...
well, he was thawed out by the end of Friday's episode.
And so Bo still so the possibility for Bo and Hope to come back to the main show or to do another, basically Bo, they rewrote that Bo is not dead, and I'm not mad about it. Sometimes I'm mad about it, but this time I'm not mad about it. I'm like, okay, this is good. This was good stuff.
I mean, I feel like there were a lot of questions answered, and then there were a lot more questions developed, because like, I think the first thing that we were all excited about with Chapter 2 was finding out where Hope has been for the past 2 years, and why
and they
all
wrote
these
in
things
that
have happened.
Navy SEAL storyline that they were planning on having for her, Remember when
Oh
she
yeah,
left
yeah,
and they said that, like, oh, we had the story that she was going to leave and then come back with a Navy SEAL. Well, then this they wrote that into this, where Steve Burton was the Navy SEAL.
yeah.
Yeah.
They kind
And
of used
like,
that anyway.
it was just nice to like finally find out like what has been going on with her,
Yeah.
and having Ciara like have that moment of like, where have you been?
I love that.
Well, first of all, I would never be able to use that tone with my mom because let me tell you, if
And
that was me,
she would say, "What did the five fingers say to the face?"
well, let me tell you, it would like you would if it was me and my mom. Beyond Salem Chapter 2 would have ended on Monday with the death of Tony. That's how that would have happened. But no, it was good to have that. And then, you know, what I always love is that the writers of Days, you know, Ron and everyone, they always use the history of the show. So the fact that this Prism storyline was the storyline back in the 80s that did involve, you know, Megan and Stefano, was like brought back full circle and like completed to create the ongoing storyline. So I was like the whole time when they were talking about the prisms, I was like, "What is this prism thing?" And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I had
that
to do a
happened."
little Googling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like, "The body connection." First of all, the gym called the
Perfect
body
name.
connection. I was like, "What is
Perfect
this,
name.
honey?" Yeah. So it really led fans now who maybe weren't watching back then to go, "Let me Google a schmoogle of this." To find out the tea, and
It was
then be
it was
caught
a
up.
good history lesson for the newer folks that weren't watching then, and a great history reference for those that were watching back then and are watching now.
Nostalgic
And there was
for
a
the ones who
lot
are
of
watching
history
now.
used in this one.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it all made sense. It wasn't, you know what I mean? I'm trying to put this into words. Like, it just all made sense. It wasn't like it's like, oh, okay, you kind of fudge that a little bit to fit this story. It
Yeah.
all made sense and it was all coherent. And I really appreciated the effort put into that. And I got to say, and on another note, Christian Alfonso, like, she was phenomenal in this.
Mhm.
Like everything. She really brought it, and just the emotion and everything. And it was like, okay, now I realize what's been missing from the show since she's been gone.
I was just gonna go ahead.
It was just really great to see her again. And that moment it was really that moment in the last episode where she heard the song and had the flashbacks. That was really the moment where I was like,
Did you
'cause she
cry?
remembered. They said she wasn't going to. I did not cry, but it did give me the feels. But because they said, you know, Angela told her, "You're not going to remember." That's the caveat. But she did remember, and it was
You know they always remember.
Yeah.
yeah. But it was just so well done, and I want to give also props just to you know, the director of photography, because it looked phenomenal, and camera work, angles, all that stuff makes a difference in how the show feels to the viewer, and it was just all good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the stuff with Christian. I feel like she, like Michael was saying, she reminded us why we missed her so much, or reminded us why we should miss her so much on the main show.
Realized why we missed her, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I thought the scene with Zach was the one that sort of like got to me. Like, I didn't cry, but I was like, okay, this is like she's pulling out all the stops here. Like the stuff with Bo I was expecting, but the stuff with Zach I thought was really sort of inspired. And part of me was wondering if they were going to skip over that and not have an adult Zach there. So I'm glad that they did. Also really, really like Steve Burton in this. I've casually watched GH over the years, and so I'm familiar with his acting stuff, but I thought he was really used really great in this one. And a little taste of the history without going, because he wasn't on the show that long in the 80s. So I like that it was just a little like, he's from Salem, he dated Eve, and now we're moving on.
Yeah. And it made sense for Ben and Ciara to hear that he dated Eve because of Ben's background with Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so like still so many thoughts, but I'll start with this one. Okay, so I know we all should be team Bo and Hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was a moment that I was kind of team Hope and Harris.
I wasn't mad about it. I wasn't mad at them, but I you know, I wasn't mad about it, but also I'm like, nah, they've been through too much. It's Bo and Hope.
I know, but still, I was just like, but it reminded me of the whole Aiden thing, right? Where like we were rooting for her and Aiden, and then they made Aiden the bad guy, and I was like, oh man, but I liked Hope with Aiden, and now I'm like, oh, I kind of like, if there was a post bow, I liked Hope and Harris, but then he's like, he almost killed her, so I'm like, well, how can you forgive that?
But I
Well,
feel
it
like
is Salem.
they
There's a
gave a
lot that
little
can
bit
be.
of it out there though at the end where they were like, maybe Megan did something to me, because they had the thing with him passing out at the end. So it was like, it was a little ambiguous of like, okay, maybe to me it screamed sort of like we can always bring him back because of that. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't 100% his fault, so maybe there's some room there for forgiveness, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then a lot more cameos with the biggest twist was we saw the return of Kristen, played by Eileen Davidson.
Yes.
But then it really wasn't Kristen, because we were all trying to figure out, why is Kristen in jail, and now she's here. It was really her other twin, Thomas.
I could tell it wasn't going to be Kristen. And I hadn't gone on Twitter yet that day, so that's not how I knew. But I knew because of the way she was talking when she was in her Kristen getup. She wasn't talking like, I'm like, something's not right.
And
then,
Eileen was scrunching up her face, like she was doing these weird facial things. Where I was like, "What's going on?" Like, actually, it took me out of the scene for a minute, and I was like, "What is she doing?" A part of me was like, "Was Eileen rusty?" I was like, "She's not. She hasn't been on vacation." I was like, "What's going on with Eileen?" And then it made sense when.
Well, it fooled me.
Yeah. That was a good, and honestly, I had completely forgotten about Thomas Banks. Like I think they brought him in like really briefly a couple times back when Eileen was first on, and then maybe again when she came back like 10 years ago. But it was the details.
Well, I mean, can we just go ahead? I mean, we're gonna just say it.
I guess Tom, we can't call him Thomas the Tuck, because it
definitely was not. Tuck. It definitely was not Tuck.
Listen,
you can get away with a lot on Peacock, and when they panned up, I was like, they actually gave him a bowl.
Yes,
kudos. They didn't have duct tape there. I don't know, but but I thought that was a great use of a character. A great use of a briefly used character, and a way to use Eileen that wasn't kind of a knock to Stacy, who is Kristen now.
Yeah, and also Sister Mary Mora, like the second go round, because again, I was like, they're not going to kill Hope on Beyond Salem. Like they can't kill off the character. But I liked that they killed her enough for her to have that moment, because we needed that moment of Bo and Hope, just kind of reconnecting and being in heaven and going through their love story, and being able to see Zach, which you guys noticed Zach was played by Scott Shillstone, who has been on the show before.
Who played Zach once in like a flash forward scene.
Yeah.
So good use of that.
Yeah. And so, just having that moment, like everybody was a mess on Thursday. Like there was crying, Bo and Hope was trending, like we all were a mess. But then I was like, well, how are they going to fix this if she's getting a second chance? And when they went down and they fast forward life, which mind you, I kind of wish like I could talk to somebody and be like, can we take that back in life? Can I have a redo?
Can we get a rewind?
And then to have the person who stopped Thomas be his sister, who's also a nun, which is a child of God. It all makes sense.
Yeah.
See how it all comes full circle?
It's a testament to the to everything that came together, the writing, the acting, the storytelling, that it was completely everything that was happening was completely feasible to me. I was like, yes, that is how things, you go up to heaven, you have a high definition television where you watch everything that's going on below. You have your sassy guardian angel controlling everything, and then can rewind. And I was like, yeah, this makes, okay. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Where sometimes, you're like, no, I bought it 100%.
I was a little worried, I have to admit, in the beginning. Like I said, I was a little worried about, okay, where's this going? I mean, I loved Loretta and Peter, and their chemistry was great. I think their chemistry sort of helped carry me to the ending, or carry me to the later half of the week, which I thought was a little bit more interesting. But yeah, at the beginning there, I was a little like, oh, did they bring Peter back just for this? I'm like, there's got to be some more. We've got something more in store here.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any pre-thoughts, but when it happened, I was like, "Oh, yay! This is what we needed." Because if chapter 2 had ended and there was no interaction between Bo and Hope,
Oh, they couldn't. They couldn't.
they would have had to
No,
burn
and
the
I think they
tape.
knew that. They probably knew that if they were bringing these two actors back, there had to be that moment. That entire episode was
But
that.
I was also like, "Girl, don't stay up there too long now. You've been dead for about 15 minutes. Like, how you gonna how they gonna bring you back to life?" They didn't even say she had a faint pulse. Like, that I could have been like, "Oh, okay, you kind of like drifting, like Carol Ann, you kind of went to the light, but you still kind of see."
Well, listen, Ben pronounced her dead like 2 seconds after she was shot. He literally walked over and like felt her pulse. Was like, she's dead.
She's dead. And I was like,
he was like, did you hear about Hope?
Dead. Yeah. A little worried about
I was
that.
like, damn, give us some time.
Well, no, there was no time. She got shot, dead, went to heaven, had that moment, and then Angela said, "You get the second chance. Let me take that back." And I was like, "Oh, they did this nicely," because I was scared.
Oh, I gotta say, the shock of that storyline for me was Larry Welch.
Yes.
It took me a minute to recognize it for a second. I was like, who's that? And I was like, oh, wow, they got Larry Welch back in this interesting kind of cameo here.
But can you imagine, like, your worst enemy?
I know.
Judging whether or not you get to, like, do something. Can you imagine that?
It was an interesting take.
I mean, my reaction would have been Bo's reaction was just like, goddamn, you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be everyone's reaction was like, ugh, you gave me hell on earth and now you're giving me hell in heaven. Like, pick one and stick with it.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we're traveling out of Montreal and heaven, we're going to go to Seattle with the Johnsons. And to add to our discussion today, we have
their pizzas.
First of all, and I love pizza.
I know.
At first, I was like, "Ooh, yes, I would love for him to be my my pizza delivery guy." And then I said, "Nope." And then not to be able to eat the pizza, and then it's too much.
Yeah.
But to add to
your own pizza, your own large pizza.
I was like, "This is a family. This is a real family portrayal. Everyone gets their own pizza. No one has to worry about sharing." I was like, "They got that right." And like,
I don't know what family that is. We got 1 or 2 boxes of pizza. You better get 2 slices and make it last. Like, you don't get your own. That's not in the budget unless there's a coupon. Yeah. So just saying. All right. So now we're gonna add into our discussion the wonderful people who portrayed Joey and Stephanie. We have Miss Abigail Klein and Tana Stine. How are you guys?
Well, how are you guys?
So
Good. First of all, welcome to our wonderful, crazy, wacky show. You guys have been like hanging out backstage, and I know that you guys were probably like, "What is going on?
What did I sign up for?"
Yeah.
So welcome. First of all, congratulations. We love the fact that like the Johnson family was like back on the canvas in Beyond Salem, and being like the full Johnsons. So that was very great to see. Like when I saw it in the previews, I was like, "Oh yay! I love this." The Johnsons needed to like reconnect.
What was it like for you to kind of come into this family? Because Mary Beth and Steven have been working together for decades. Lucas has been in that family for a while now. You two are kind of the newbies being thrust into this existing family with existing chemistry between the three of them, and I gotta say it met when all of you guys were together. It was like, wow, they really nailed it. They really nailed everything. This believable as a family, the way you guys played off each other, interacted with each other. How did that come about? Like, did you guys have like a kiki before all together? Were you guys able to kind of meet separately, or were you guys just like, okay, this is your family, here's what you're saying, and go?
Yeah,
Abigail, you go
that one, Abigail.
Say what?
I said I'll let you take that one.
Oh, well, I mean, gosh, I think it's a testament to, to them, right? Like they're already such a family. And they were they couldn't have been more warm and welcoming. And so it was really easy to just kind of slide into that, family vibe. And Steven actually reached out to me before, and we went and grabbed coffee. And that was really, really nice because he didn't have to do that. So yeah, I'm grateful that they made it so easy. You know, they couldn't have been sweeter.
They made it incredibly comfortable. That's what it came down to. They were just all super nice. So it felt very easy to just fall into that, you know?
Yeah.
Nice.
I've seen that on Mary Beth's social media and Steven's social media. Whenever they have, you know, a kid presence on the show, like you guys are featured like on the memes and whatever they post. It's like those two actors are all about their real families and their show families.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've noticed that just following them on social.
Yes, they're so generous in that way. Yeah.
Guys, piggybacking off of that, when you signed on to portray these characters, we always joke there's like a show Bible, or is there sort of information that gets funneled to you about the history of the Johnsons, or is it conversations with other actors, or do you guys do your own research, or how do you sort of get whatever sort of pre-shooting process going?
I think Tanner, it's your turn to take this one.
Yeah, I had absolutely no clue because I didn't really watch the show beforehand, like at all. So I had no idea when I was going in. I think I found out like my third day of shooting, like the third episode that I was shooting, that Joey had been to prison. like how that would have been useful information the first 2 episodes I was in. I definitely was going in blind.
Oh wow.
Which was kind of cool though, because then they sort of allowed it to be whatever it ended up being.
Yeah.
You know?
That's really cool. I was the opposite. I was Googling and putting together a little timeline of when I got kidnapped and when this happened and who broke up with who here and all these things. But you know what's so cool is this show obviously has been on since 1965, right?
Yeah.
And so I was actually worried about coming in and playing a character who already had history, but everybody is so helpful on set, and even obviously Stephen and Mary Beth, I was asking them questions, and the directors and the producers would come and give you such helpful context, and it's like, oh wow, all the stuff I missed, like that's very helpful. Thank you. So it's way more collaborative, because at first I was really intimidated by that, but everyone's there to help you.
Yeah, that's one thing that we've learned about the show behind the scenes, is that Days is truly a family. And whether you're new, whether you've been there forever, like the relationships that show has built is very everlasting. And it's so welcoming. Like when you come there, like it's not like the first day of school and you're like, which table do I sit at? It's like you have multiple tables you can choose to sit at, because they're just very welcoming and very amazing people. So I it's no surprise that you were like, oh, what about this? And they're like, here, sit down. Let's go over Stephanie and like really give you all this information. So that's really good. Were you guys at all, because in soaps there's always recasts, and the soap fandom can be very critical at times. Were you guys at all nervous about stepping into the shoes of these existing characters already, and worried about what the fan base would say about your portrayal?
At the same.
It was literally at the same time. You like, if I were like Dolores Van Cartier and this was Sister Act 3, that would be amazing.
We're such siblings. Look at us.
I don't think I was particularly nervous. I think I was more just kind of in a state of shock, because I had screen tested for Joey like 7 years ago.
Oh wow!
So to be recast as Joey 7 years later, I was more just like,
that seems to happen a lot with Days. Back with
but yeah, not really for me. Stephanie, what about you? Or Abigail? Stephanie.
It's okay. We do it on the show all the time too. We always call. Yeah,
I know that was the hardest part of coming into this, is learning everybody's name and their character name. It's like, whoa, that's a lot of names. That's so cool. I didn't realize that. For me, I was just so thrilled. But then, looking up Shelley Hennig and going down a rabbit hole of her Instagram, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, love her. This is so cool. What shoes to fill. And yes, I of course thought about, what is the reaction going to be? But then I get it. I have favorite characters on shows, and if they were to change, I'd be bummed or I'd be really excited. So I think that all just comes with the territory, right? Especially in soaps. So for me, I'm just grateful, so grateful for the gig.
Well, I mean, aren't we all grateful for gigs? We like to be booked and blessed, even if it's 7 years later. That booking
Yes.
will come. Nailed it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you guys were amazing, and there's again that Friday episode. I just feel like it left so many questions
Doors
and
open.
wondering. Yeah, like if. First of all, if Joey, if Wendy's going to choose Joey or Trip, which, by the way, Team Joey, because I think Trip he's good, So
Joey
let's
needs
let
some love.
Wendy and Joey be together, and then poor Abigail. They left Stephanie in the hospital while all this stuff was going on in Hong Kong, and then we finally get back, and there's a tearful goodbye, and then there's the message on the phone that's like, oh, well, maybe I'll be returning home soon. And I'm like, now, wait a minute. Now, what's happened? It was like Friday. I was just like, what's going to happen? What's going on? I have so many questions. But as a true Days fan, I'm just going to wait and be a fan with open arms and just hope that you guys land in Salem and that we get a continuation of what we just saw in Beyond Salem.
Love that.
Perfect answer. Very cagey. Yes.
That was very PC. Like,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
I 100% agree.
Yes, it's received. Got it.
Use the words very carefully.
I had a quick question before we go. I saw this online, and I don't know if you can confirm it, Abigail, but I heard that Ron had an idea of originally having Shelley and having both of you on the show, and then she was supposed to play Stephanie before the explosion, and you were Stephanie after the explosion. Was that? Can you reveal that? Okay.
Yes, that, which is so funny to me. I thought that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
She wasn't available to do it, but they would have had her in the beginning, and then me waking up with a new face, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that would have been so fun, but
Well,
Clever.
okay.
I didn't know that.
it was so great for me because I got to,
I got to do both. Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah, I mean, and that would have been very soapy too, to be like, oh, look, I'm now this new person.
The classic new face. Yeah.
Yeah,
That is very
happens.
fun. Yeah.
Happens all the time. But even there was the moment Stephen Nichols pointed out to Joey, like, you just don't seem like yourself.
Yeah.
And I was just
Changed
like,
so much or something like that.
yeah, it's like, we get it.
Did you get your haircut? Is that what he said? Something about my haircut?
Your hair, yeah.
Yeah.
The haircut? Yeah, that's what it was. It's the haircut.
So good. Well, you both are truly amazing. We definitely enjoyed your performances on Beyond Salem Chapter 2. And we really do hope that, you guys actually land in Salem and we continue to see both of you and like what you can bring to Salem. So we're going to go ahead. I mean, we've started many campaigns on this show and most have come into fruition. So we're going to go ahead and start #bring back Joey, #bring back Stephanie, and we'll see where it goes.
Love it.
I like
Put that out there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And hopefully, again, we'll be talking soon and you guys are in Salem.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Cross
guys.
your fingers. Hopefully it's not 7 years later.
I know.
Yeah. Let's hope. Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for coming.
So nice to chat with you.
So nice to chat with you.
Pleasure.
Bye, you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, they're great.
Oh my gosh,
Great.
so good. Like
We met Abigail at the we first met her at the Emmys. Tony, you and I. Did you meet her at the Emmys?
no,
When
I
I
didn't.
took
I didn't.
Oh, I
I
introduced
didn't.
myself because she passed by. Yeah, and she was lovely, and she knew who we were, and
Oh
was
wow.
like, "Oh yeah, I can't can't wait till
Nice.
things come out, and I can start talking to you guys." And so she's great. Yeah,
I mean, knowing me, I was probably talking to somebody
you were
else in
kikiing
this.
with someone else. Yeah, and I was doing
That's my problem. I need to pay attention more. My mom always says, "Pay attention to your surroundings." And what am I doing? Not paying attention to my surroundings.
Well, you'll probably the other days people.
No, and I did photos of Tanner last week, and he was great, and
Which came out
but
really, really good because
Yeah.
I was nosy and I was like, "Let me see these photos." And I like
oh, I know
clicked it
you're
and I was
always
like,
like, "How'd the shoot
"Oh."
go?" I'm like, "Good." He's like, "Well, let me see him." I'm
Well,
like,
yeah,
"Oh,
because I'm
yeah."
nosy and I want to see. But chances are, like, because we're connected, and so like we have the Instagrams and the Gmails and stuff. So sometimes I see stuff and I go, "Oh, let me just look," and then I go, "Oh, how'd the shoot go?" Knowing full and well that I've already
So
looked at the pictures. It was like, let me just act like I didn't see them, and I was like, "Oh, they look great. They look really good."
no, but
Kudos to you, Michael
those
Maddox.
two are both good eggs. I wish good things for them, and yeah, I hope they can. We see more of them.
Yeah, me
Absolutely.
too. Same. Yeah, because it definitely left the door open, and again, I love that interaction with and the introduction of Wendy Shin,
Mhm,
and that they're also growing the Shin family because
mhm.
Mr. Shin, was just, the head of Demera, which, bless his heart, having to deal with all those different CEOs. And then he was like, you know what, I can't deal with this. So now I'm gonna pass it on to my son Lee. And then of course we were all goo goo gaga over Lee, and we were like,
Yeah.
Okay.
now listen, you can come run any company you would like. And then now the introduction of Wendy, I was like, I like this, and I like the dynamic where,
Mhm.
you know, Lee is kind of like more of the refined, like, I'm walking in my father's footsteps,
Yeah.
where Wendy is like, I'm trying to get there, but I'm also Kim Possible.
Yes. Wendy was fantastic. When she first showed up, I was like, oh, we got like someone spunky and like but she's on the sort of right side of
Yeah,
things. And
Mhm.
I like that in addition to her being a great character, I think she also really helped flesh out Lee's character.
totally.
We're
Yeah,
like, okay, like he's been, he pops in and out, we like him, but then they're introducing him into the main show a little bit more. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
like we need a little bit something from him. And so I think
and
having his scenes with on Beyond Salem Chapter 2 definitely gave us a little bit more of the family dynamic and kind of what
yeah,
he's dealing with. So,
and very similar to how the Johnson siblings, kind of meshed very well together.
yeah.
Their interaction as brother and sister was like perfect, and
Yeah.
it was just like she's the annoying little sister, and
Mhm.
gosh, I hope she wears a clean sweatshirt to the gala,
Mhm.
and like those little moments made me giggle. And there was another moment in this storyline, and poor Trip, poor when Steve was brainwashed, he made a comment about why he's just going to leave her for someone else. He's just going to leave you for
Oh,
someone else. I was just like, ouch. I
yeah.
was like, that hurt.
Yeah.
But yeah. So where Wendy left off, she was getting hit up by Trip and Joey, and she just kind of was like, she was kind of feeling herself. Good for her.
I mean, who wouldn't be if you
Bless
have
her
two men
heart.
Yeah.
chasing after you?
Two good-looking men. Two hot men.
And I feel like they did this theme of this has been like recurring, I feel like, where everyone is ending not in a nice little bow, but there's something on the horizon.
Open-ended. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. When they
open-ended.
ended this where it was like, you have a promotion, but they didn't say where. They didn't say if it was going to be Salem or Alaska. They didn't say what the promotion was. So I was like, okay, is this, I feel like they're leaving things very open-ended to see who they kind of want to bring to the main show or who kind of pops on this season.
I think this speaks to like they figured out a good formula for these kind of one-off these Beyond Salem chapters. I think this should be like the I'll just say formula for these going forward, maybe, where they are, things kind of, they start off very succinct with the main show where like, okay, characters that are on Beyond Salem aren't on days at the same time. I think we had a little bit of overlap on one day, but not a big deal. And then, yeah, they're left open-ended in case, all of it, because there was a lot of new faces. on this one, and solid new faces on this one. I will say, like, of everybody they brought in, everyone was like, I was like, I can't pick a favorite. They're all great.
Yeah.
And so it was smart of them to leave it open-ended and see the reaction, so that, you know, if they think, okay, we can bring this person onto the main show, contract or whatnot. But yeah, I think this was a great way to leave things off too.
Yeah, and also just I like the way that this started with, like, you know, the family dynamic of the Johnsons and the fact that Steve and Kayla would go and visit them, and, like, you know, that Trip and Joey are together, and you know, Stephanie is now Stephanie has lived. She started off as a race car driver, and then now she's this, you know, PR, you know, publicist, and, like, you know, very refined and, you know, very businesslike and everything. So it was just nice to see their dynamic before all hell broke loose by ordering pizza.
Before the pizza blew up.
Yeah. All right, now we're gonna travel over to my favorite city.
Yes.
San Francisco. But before we dive into that, we are going to have one more guest on our show. He is the new Andrew Donovan, being played by Mr. Colton Little. Hi, Colton.
Hey, Colton.
Hey.
Poor Colton has just been like,
waiting.
I know. Thank you.
waiting patiently, just being like,
He's like, hurry it up.
can we get to the good part?
This has been so fun because I'm getting to like watch, like I watched the show obviously, and I was so like there were so many things I wanted to talk about with people, and so I'm like listening to this, I'm like yeah, and I don't know if you could see me in the waiting room, but I was like reacting to everything you guys were doing. So
nice.
Happy to be here.
Well, welcome. I love the fact that, again, history, and that they're bringing back, you know, one of the children of another legendary character, you know, Shane Donovan and Kim, and it was just great to, like, be able to see that into fruition, and that, you know, he too following in his father's footsteps as an ISA agent. So welcome and kudos. You were amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Colton, I want to ask, your character is someone who sort of on the show at least had different interactions with a lot of different people. When you in preparation for that, did you have to do a crash course in like Day's history to sort of realize like, okay, this is my relationship with this person, or this is how I know of this person, or what was that process like?
When you asked me, or when you asked Tanner and Abigail if they got like a show Bible or something, I was like, because, yeah, I mean, I will say that Marnie, who's one of the casting directors, she offered me a Zoom call, and after I booked the role, and she was so instrumental in being like, what do you need? How are you going to feel prepared going into this? And like stuff, day-to-day stuff of like, how do you get onto the studio lot? Like, where do you check in? What do you do? And that, but also like I had questions about characters. I was like, okay, so Charles Shaughnessy plays my dad. You know, I'm familiar with Days. It's always been on the TV in the background in my house. And everyone knows about Marlena's possession. Like that's the biggest, you know, one of the biggest, everyone knows about that. But I was like asking her intricate questions about character, and she was so helpful in that. So
yeah, Marty's the person to fill you
in. She's great. She's definitely a great helping hand in making sure that, you know, you have all the tools to be your best self. Wow, that really sounded like a soundbite, like if I were on Oprah or something. Kudos.
Speaking of sound bites, fan with open arms, you need to put that on a t-shirt.
Thank you. You know merch. That will be our new merch. Fan with open arms. And it's going to be my arms like this. And it's like fan with open arms. I love that. Thank 100%. You, Colton. Writing that down.
How dumb do we feel we never did that? That's like the...
I know. Listen, we're baby stuff.
Sometimes it takes an outsider to tell you something that's right in your face. Yeah.
I did go to like two semesters of like marketing advertising school, so probably an expert.
You're hired.
We need to consult you on our merch.
Speaking of your character, this character is very complex. He's, you know, a legacy character. He's an ISA agent. You had to get very, very physical in some respect. I'm assuming you didn't have a stunt double. Maybe you did. It looked like you were doing your own stunts, you and Christopher. So kudos there. The character is also gay, and in this day and age, especially on days, they've set it up so that having a gay character, the storyline isn't that the character's gay. It's like it's a non-issue. Did you have any, but still in this day and age, there are actors who may be concerned about portraying a gay character on TV. It seems very like old school and archaic, but was there any concern on your part or concerns about any aspect of your character going in?
To be honest, I was so excited he was going to be presented as gay. It was not an issue for me. Actually, I mean, I've played tons of straight characters in, like romantic holiday movie kind of things. And to get to play a gay character and kind of feel all the different parts of myself in that way, like the internal kind of exploration of who I am as a person, and also to bring representation to, viewers in different parts of the country who might not have the support systems that some of us grew up with. I think that's really important. And also to show, because also the LGBTQ plus spectrum is so broad, to show someone who is comfortable in their masculine presenting self, like their hardened like ISA agent self, like he can turn on that part of himself. He can also like do it with a wink and a smile and have a little fun with it. Yeah. That was really important for me, that duality of like, oh, just be yourself, stay in your voice. You don't have to put on like the straight man voice. You can have fun with the character, but also lean into all the different sides of who he is. I think that's important. And I think that for me, showing people that gay people aren't scary. Gay people, we're not like some mystery, scary group of people who's out to get you and take your rights away or do something terrible like that. To show a really well-rounded representation of that was important for me. And if people have an issue with it, they can have an issue with it. But, just to know that I don't personally have an issue with them, and I am who I am, and I'm going to play the character how I want to play it.
And, I think that really shined through because there was a lot of talk on Twitter, like Andrew Donovan needs to come to the main show. Andrew Donovan, loving Andrew Donovan. And I think it was that authenticity that you brought. And it did really shine through. And I think that's what really, really sold your character to the viewers. So good job.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. It was a complete treat. So,
and the fact that a gay male can be an ISA agent, and that's okay, because something like a police officer or a spy or whatever, that's very in TV world very masculine presenting something, but the fact that we were introduced to Andrew as an ISA agent and as a gay man, I thought that spoke volumes as well. And again, it allowed for viewers to just see this man who just so happens to be gay also works as an ISA agent, which is no different than a John Black or his father, Shane, or anyone else, within that organization that we've seen over the 50 years. It was just a moment to go, oh, okay, well, this is cool. But when are him and Paul going to get together? Because we like it.
Yes.
Which is what I was wondering the whole time. Yeah. I was like, yes, Andrew and Paul, I'm rooting for all this. I was rooting for the hot tub, although I was like, please don't electrocute them in this hot tub. We don't want that. We did not want that.
No.
Speaking of my favorite scene, obviously, was when Paul and Andrew came in and busted Miranda, and Paul got to confront John, and just that whole scene was very get down on the ground, without saying get down on the ground. Was there any inspiration for you in that? Because I don't know I know shooting days go so quickly that I don't know if someone pulled you aside and said, hey, this is how you hold a gun, or or were you like, were you like, I am about to feel my James Bond moment in this. I'm gonna watch a clip or a movie to like get into. Like, what was your whole inspiration during that scene?
Well, inspiration, that's another thing. But the way that I prepared for it.
Yes.
It's funny because I grew up in the Midwest, so I grew up surrounded by guns, like in a very safe, educated way. But I'm not a fan of guns personally. Like I don't own one in my own life.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I was like, I've never held a handgun before, and I get on set, and we had some amazing stunt coordinators who, like, actually the guy who played the maintenance man was one of our stunt coordinators.
Oh, look at him. He got a role too. Look at that. Why would I tell
Extra check.
Beyond Salem's making everybody's dreams come true. Let me tell you.
I know. Which, by the way, just a little sidebar. When I walked into the studio and I saw Tony there, because I knew Tony from outside of the show, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I'm on the show. I'm here to do the DJ." And I was like, "What?" Like, it was like universe explosion. It was weird. It was really, really crazy. But I'm so happy for Tony that he got on.
Yeah.
But
Me too.
so congratulations. Take your flowers, and you manifested the heck out of that. But I pulled the stunt coordinator aside, and I was like, "Yo, I don't know how to hold a gun, so can we just do a little quick tutorial?" And then he showed me how to hold it properly. And I think with all the gun safety stuff that's happened on set as well the last few months, I was really cognizant of that going in, because I had to point a gun at Drake Hogestyn. And, no one was John.
Don't damage the goods, yeah.
An on-set accident. So I was like, we're going to check the clip. I'm going to shoot this into the ground and make sure that there's no route. Like, I was overly cautious. They're prop guns. They're definitely safe. But I went into that, and I just was really cognizant of that. Also, the physical training of it. I was really, I worked out a lot beforehand. I ate really clean. I just made sure that for me, there was like a level of discipline in my life so that mentally I could step into the shoes of somebody who would be an ISA agent. So that I would know what it's like to have a body that's an instrument that I could utilize. So. Yeah.
Well, that's also good too, because when I tell you they had you shirtless all throughout that thing, I was like, bless your heart.
They waste no time on this show. They waste no time. In Beyond Salem Chapter 1, Chandler and Zach were shirtless in the shower, like on their first day. So it's like they waste no time anymore.
We're here for all of it. So yeah.
I went in saying, give me sequence.
Yeah. The amount of glitter. Yeah, the amount of glitter that was like left over in the hallways after you guys shot the Pride party, I was like, there's so much glitter.
Listen, a trail of pride is what we left on there. But you, Colton, you were amazing. It was so good to see you there on set that day, and just what you brought to the show as Andrew. Again, like, I feel like Beyond Salem has like instilled in us, like, we want to see more of these characters. We want to see like, them interact on the main show. And so we're all hoping that like we kind of have a little transfer and we get to explore all of that a little bit more, especially, since at the end, and again, like, chapter 2 was very reminiscent of chapter 1 when it was Lisa Rinna as Billy and Peter as the detective. And the whole time we thought there was some underlining, chemistry with them. And it was the same with you and Paul. And just like, we could tell there was maybe an intrigue like at the beginning, but then we kind of saw it develop as they worked together. And then that last scene where they did kind of connect, I was like, I need to see more of this. I want to know what happens. And also, do they need their friend Terrence to come in too?
You can DJ the wedding.
Yeah.
DJ the rehearsal dinner,
all that.
Engagement party, the wedding. Yes.
Anytime music is needed, DJ Terrence will be.
There you go. You can be like one of our Kiki girls, like whenever we're like, we need like, we get into a fight in the future or something like that. And then you can be on the couch with me, like drinking Chardonnay. And then he walks in and we're like, Like that. That could be like where you come in.
Right. Just about, oh, girl, here we go again. What do you do now?
No, it was Christopher was so fantastic, and I didn't meet him before we started filming. So I walked in for
wow.
my COVID test at like 5 a.m. my first day, and he was in the hallway, and I was like, I knew who he was, like Christopher Sean. He's he's been in a ton of stuff, but I was just like, do I introduce myself? Is he going to be like too cool or what? And he was the nicest. He like pulled me into a hug and was just like, I'm so excited to work with you. And literally every day walked me to wherever we needed to be, which stage we were on, which set we were on. He would be like, can we run lines? How are you doing? I need to check in with me. He was a true legend and gentleman. And I was so great. I'm so indebted to him because he even taught me like camera angles and things like that, because soaps move so fast. So you only get like 1 to 2 takes per scene. And he was just like, stand this way, don't stand this way, don't block my light, I won't block yours. And just was a very kind, wonderful human being. So I'm really grateful I got paired up with him.
Yeah,
He's such a
super
warm
helpful
guy.
Yeah, so nice and so helpful. Like same with me. Like before we shot our scene together, let's run lines. How are you doing? Congratulations. Glad you made it happen. Like, we walked the set together. He was like, okay, make sure stand like this. We're going to do 50-50. And then maybe we turn like this. Does that feel natural? Like it was just so easy with him. And I mean, same like you, I can't, give him any more accolades. It's just, he was just so helpful, to a day where so much was happening, especially in my mind and like, whatever. And it was just nice to have someone to just kind of go, we got this. So it was good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, Colton, thanks for coming on. Thanks for holding on as long as you did.
It was effortless. It was great.
Thank
you guys for having me. I'm so honored.
Of course. And again, we really, really hope, we're going to start the hashtag Bring Back Andrew campaign as well. Many campaigns started here today.
Put it on a t-shirt.
You know what?
This is why you're head of merchandising for
head of merchandising.
Not only
there's no pay, so keep that NBC job. But
sorry, my connections.
Oh, this connection is so rickety. I'm so sorry.
Like, sorry, you'll get a free lunch at Kitchen 24 maybe every season.
We can't afford.
Yeah,
there you go. I'll take it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Colton, and hopefully we'll see more of Andrew in Salem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, keep campaigning online. All the fans just keep shouting it to the rafters, and maybe someday it'll happen.
We hope so.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you, Colton.
Thanks, Colton.
Bye, y'all. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Justin. Nice to see you, Michael.
Yep. Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, yay. Okay, so now that we're in San Francisco.
I was debating whether to put this first, and I was like, let's just end on this one.
Oh yeah, let's not put it first. It's not all about me.
Yeah,
but it is about me. So one, I will say this: I was very happy that the show did display a pride party.
Yeah.
And of course, online, a lot of the PR photos came out, and there were some fans that were like, "I'm not watching this. They're shoving this down our throat," and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
and the moment that John said to Paul and Terrence that he basically supports his son, and that anyone should. It should be okay for anyone to love who they want to love. I was like, that message is for y'all who's not watching it.
Exactly.
Or who doesn't want to tune in because it's a pride event. Again, we have seen these characters, live their life in Salem, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is no different than being able to see Paul living his life in San Francisco during Gay Pride, and then to have this legendary character, John, there in this party setting, just loosened up, dancing,
Yeah.
having a great time, keeping the party going,
Yeah.
around all these glitterized, shirtless, hot men. Like, and even the joke of like him being at the keg and being like, I put in work and like not like that. Like all of that was it was fun. And it's sad that the people who need that message
Yeah.
won't watch it just simply because it's gay. You know what I mean? So
Well, and a lot of those people, I think, talk big. They were watching.
Oh, yeah.
probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably.
I love the John stuff. What they gave Drake, I feel like it was great to start that off on Monday. It was really not, I wouldn't say like a shot in the arm, but it was a good way to like start the series and kind of have like fun, and it was like a little bit of like the glitz and the glamour that I think season 1 definitely had a lot more of. That season 2, it was just a different direction and different kind of mood. But I love that. I love seeing Drake just happy and dancing around. Shout out
And
to the comments on Stonewall, the comments on police brutality. I was like, okay, that is a way that you funnel this in here without it being, quote unquote, a light bulb moment or a message moment. And yeah.
And his dad dancing, I call it dad dancing because I feel like I've seen my dad make those same exact, like, it's almost like basketball dancing. I call it.
Yes, the slide.
Like, is he playing basketball or what? I'm like, I feel like I saw my dad do that. I feel like I have a video of it somewhere. It was just so authentic, not overdone or not trying too hard. It was just very, very, very real.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, I'm glad Terrence got out of there before all hell broke loose. That was the first thing I said. But I like the way that this started off. It really kind of went everywhere and just showed everyone living.
Yeah.
And then, then it got into, well, first off, it started off with us knowing right away that Harris was obviously a villain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big shout out to Tom Early and the production team. All the sets and everything that they had to do to make all of this come to life was amazing. Just that opening alone with him on the boat, and like shooting the two guys was just like, really I feel like I was paying attention to like, oh my God, like where'd that water come from? Like how are they floating? Like where'd the boat come from? Like, just all of that and taking us into that moment, I thought was great. And again, seeing Paul at San Francisco Pride with John, seeing the Johnsons, seeing Ben and Ciara land in Montreal to see Hope, like all of that was a great beginning to what was about to transpire. It's like we're living life, and then in true Days form, all hell is about to break loose.
Yeah.
So that was great. But again, very glad that Terrence got out of Dodge before that doorbell rang. And he definitely wasn't going to stand there to clean up at all. I will say that I have watched that scene probably over 20 times now.
Of course, as you
and shout out to everyone who has sent a message, tweet regarding this. I feel like I haven't had a chance to wrap my head around what's happened, to really truly acknowledge all the love that I've been receiving, because it has been really overwhelming. When I say that this is a dream come true, it is literally a dream come true. You guys know it. A lot of other people know it. One fan actually wrote that they were so emotional and in tears because they knew how much this meant to me.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's so surreal to like watch that scene as many times as I have and just see me coming around the corner and just like interacting with Paul and interacting with John.
John Black.
And then it's just like toodles. And then I like leave. It's just it was a moment. And I will treasure that moment forever and ever.
And it all started at the Emmys 3 years ago when you interviewed Ron. You planted that seed in his mind 3.5 years ago. Yeah. So if you hadn't done that,
let me tell you, do you know how long I've been planting that seed?
I
Like
know.
forever.
Well,
Hashtag
you took advantage while you had the ear of a person that could make it happen. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So yeah, you got to take your chances
And
when you get them.
what's really interesting, we I promise y'all we will not stay on this topic long. We will keep moving because there's more of Beyond Salem to talk about. But um it's really weird to think about the dream that I had. And that's how the name Terrence came about. Was
Mhm.
that I had a dream that I booked a role. I can still see the picture in my mind that I had of me like holding the script and literally being like that's how I looked in the picture
Yeah.
with the script. And I was like, the character's name was Terrence. And I don't know like where that came from, why I would dream that it would be Terrence, but he didn't have a name before. It was just hashtag Maxine Son.
Yeah.
And then on it was Terrence. So that opening scene of the Pride Party and John taking out his phone being like, hey Terrence, can you turn down the music? Me standing there, I was like,
Yeah.
so yeah. Anyway, there's that. Thank you guys for all the love. Thank you for all the tweets and everything. I truly appreciate it. It really is a moment. And I could not watch the rest of the episode because I kept rewinding that scene over and over again. I was like, wait, I kind of have to watch the rest. So yeah, but wait, is that it? That's San Francisco, right? And then
we got
everything-
Chris Kolchak back. Which, soon as they showed up, I was like, "Are they going with Chris with?"
Chris Kostachek at the
Kostachek,
body
yeah.
shop or
Did you
Body
Did you know
Connection.
that, Tony? Did you know he was? Josh Taylor played Chris back in the '80s on the show.
I wondered that
Yeah,
because
yeah,
when
that's what it
I
was.
saw him playing the role,
Yeah.
and I was like, I wonder. And again, that's one of the other
Yeah.
things that I wanted to look up. I was like, did Josh Taylor play
Yeah.
him before he played
Mhm.
Roman? And
Yeah.
again, it's like I don't care what anyone says, whether you liked it, whether you loved it, whether you want more of it. The way they utilize history in this, and the way that
Mhm.
they are able to utilize, cast in like previous roles that they had or whatever is so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Like again, this was another like season where like every morning I was like, I want to watch because I want to know what happens
Mhm.
next. And I'm like, this is classic soap opera. This is like what we always enjoyed about the show was that it left you rushing back home to see what happens
Mhm.
next.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
kudos to that. All right, so now finally we're in Hong Kong, and which is basically where everything comes to a head.
Mhm.
It was nice to see the continued relationship of Shin and Gabi.
Yeah.
How are we feeling about that? Are we liking that more and more? Are we still kind of on the fence about it?
I'm accepting it, but I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm really in for that. I'm just like, okay, that they're a thing now.
Yeah.
I'm still on the fence because I feel like we know Gabi in and out at this point. We
Mhm.
don't. We still even though we got a little bit more with Li on this one, we still don't know much about his character or who he is as a person. So I'm waiting for that other side of their couple to be filled so that I can
Mhm.
kind of see them wholly as a couple. I feel like now it's just like, oh, she's dating Li Shin and whatever, they have sex. And it's like, I'm not feeling anything there to a relationship. So I'm hoping that his character himself gets expanded out a little bit more.
Yeah. But it's just good to see him
Yeah.
on the canvas more.
Yeah.
I like this dynamic because it's like, it's like a Jay-Z and Beyonce kind of a moment where like two bosses are like coming together to like be more boss-like.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Did anyone else kind of go, wait a minute, when Megan was in Venezuela but was also in Montreal?
Oh, just
Did y'all catch that?
yeah. Wait.
I must have
So-
missed it. Yeah.
Okay, so there was the shot of she comes in while John and Patch are locked up, and then they finally get out. She comes out and she like holds the cards.
Oh, yeah.
Which does anyone is that another significant thing from back then? The
I
cards.
That I
remembered
don't
one
know.
of them. I didn't remember the other. I forget which. I think the demon one I remembered. I felt like that was one Stefano used a lot, but I didn't recall the other one. Maybe someone else. Yeah, in the comments when we do
But
it.
I feel like it worked for both of them.
Yeah.
And then she did that, and then cut to Montreal. She behind the tree, and I said,
Mm,
Oh, I didn't even remember that was the same day.
I was like, wait a minute. I was like, you was just in Venezuela. How are you in?
Oh.
there
And
were
then-
a couple times they stepped ahead very quickly,
Yeah, it was probably supposed to be
especially
fine.
towards the last two episodes, but
Yeah.
it wasn't enough to make me be like, this is going too fast. It was like, oh, okay, now that was wrapped up, and now they're onto the next thing.
Mhm.
And I have to give a kudos to Wardrobe because while watching the many changes of Megan, I was like, yes, ooh,
Yeah.
yes. And then even with Hope, I was like, green looks really good on Christian Alfonso, by the
Mhm.
way. That
Yeah,
green
that's
dress
her
looks
color.
really good. The silver dress, the white in heaven. I was like,
That silver wedding dress looked amazing on her, especially when I text you guys. I was like, "It's the prism and the cleavage for me." That was like, I was like, "This is an outfit. Like this is." She's giving me a little Princess Gina Hope here. Like,
yeah. And then I like that they didn't obviously brainwash John and Steve. Got the other prism, and the other thing that I liked about this was that she ended up actually collecting all the prisms.
Exactly. It's like the good guys
Like she
didn't
won,
exactly win this
Yeah.
time.
But
which is fine with me.
it propels and opens the door
yeah,
to
Exactly.
a whole nother story. And so I was like,
Mhm.
because of course you think like, oh, you're after these prisms, like whatever, like someone's gonna stop you, wham. But
Yeah.
when she got them all, I was like, uh-oh.
part of me was getting really worried at the end. I was like, "Oh, please don't kill Megan. Like, we got to keep her
Yeah.
alive to bring her." I was worried. Oh, please don't shoot her. Please don't.
Megan did a 1-2 punch, and
Yeah.
she was like gone. And I actually I like that too. I again, the other thing that I liked about the character of Megan was that her tie-in with Bo, and that
Mhm.
actually it could have been Bo and Megan,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but
They were like
because Bo
sweethearts,
was in love with Megan.
Yeah, he was.
And apparently the whole reason why they weren't together, because I had to look this up because we no longer have James L. Jr., was that her mother interfered. Like
Yeah.
he was writing letters to her, wasn't getting responses, and so he was just like whatever, and couldn't fully commit to Hope because he was still so in love with Megan.
Yep.
And the way that this all came full circle, I was just like,
Yeah.
I love all of this. It was so good. And the whole time I thought, I was like, Lord, they will not let Stefano just be dead. Like they
Stefano will always have a presence on Days of Our Lives, dead or
Always.
alive. He will always have a presence. He will always be talked about. He will always be in that living room,
Mhm.
that
everyone talks to.
For some reason, it just connected with me that I assumed it was Bo. Like I know they were kind of, maybe because they were saying Stefano a lot, so I was like, it can't be Stefano, it must be Bo.
Mhm.
I just assumed it was Bo. Yeah.
It wasn't until all those prisms came together and that door opened and it was Bo. Well, when she said the love of my life, I was like,
Mhm.
the love of your life, is that your daddy?
He was like, where are they going with this? This is taking a turn.
I was like, who you got in this freezer, girl? And then it opened.
She
and
also
it was
mentioned
Bo.
someone it was a brain tumor. The person who was in there had a brain tumor, and then I was
Yeah.
like, well, wait, isn't that what Bo? I was like, Bo, and someone mentioned Lexi, and I was like,
No.
Lexi had a
Lexi
brain
too, yeah.
something. Yeah.
Well, also remember the whole reason why Stefano was looking for the prisms was because he too had a brain tumor.
Mm.
So again, like
Got
it's
it.
connecting everything together, and you're just like, so
Whoever did the research, whoever Ron and his team, and whoever researched and was able to have all these dots and put them together so nicely and cohesively,
I believe
gold star.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I think we've talked about this. Ryan Kwan is on the up and up
Oh, he's
about
like
the
bipolar.
history, and I even think Ron has mentioned that like Ryan is like the walking encyclopedia of days. Like he knows how everyone is connected. He remembers storylines. He remembers truly the history of it. So kudos to Ryan because listen, knowing 56 years of a show, that's a lot. Like I can't I look at past clips of days and I go, when that happened?
When that happened? Yeah. Oh
Now
yeah.
I wonder if this
They
is
were on the show.
pattern.
That's right.
Is this the pattern going forward? Are we now going backwards? Is it 70s next time? Like, what, you know what I mean? Or are they going to do another sort of change? And yeah, I was wondering that while watching it.
But you know what? I will say this. I hope they keep Beyond Salem going. Like I hope
yeah,
that we continue to get multiple chapters because I honestly like the fact that there are times that they can just explore off the canvas, and it also it feels like a completely different show.
Yeah.
What would really be funny is if they do, okay, so they did Beyond Salem Chapter 2. If they do Chapter 3 before the end of the year, and then both chapters are separately eligible for an Emmy. So next year's outstanding drama would be Days, Beyond Salem 2, and Beyond Salem 3.
They'll still figure out a way to give it to General Hospital.
Right? Okay.
I was like, are you serious with anyway, that's a whole different thing. But before we close out, overall thoughts on the show.
This was just I'll go first. Sorry, Justin.
Okay.
I was with you, Tony. It was one of those moments where, and I was, working from home this week, so I could easily, watch it while I was working, but I made a point to not be working while I watched it because I didn't want to miss anything. And and I mentioned the production aspects of this show compared to the main show. And I know the main show, they're like, no time for any fancy stuff. We just it's more of efficient than, more efficient than maybe this Peacock show. Maybe they had a little bit more time, but just some of like the stuff they were doing with the camera angles and like kind of taking things a little bit slower in scenes, having longer scenes. I felt like I was just always more engaged with it. And I think that's what made it so engaging and making me reactive to it because it gave me time to like get invested on what was happening. And so, and that makes a difference. Like if a scene's a little bit longer, it's like you get really deep into it. Like that Bo and Hope scene where they were having their first, that was a long scene.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I was like, yeah. And then at the end, like I said, when, they were when Hope, Ben and Ciara were at the dock and Ben was messing with that radio and the song came on and they held on that close up of Christian Alfonso and it was just those kinds of elements in the production really make a difference. And so, I would like to see that on the main show. I think it would make the main show even better than it already is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me watching Monday, I gotta say was a little tough for me, and I think I texted you guys. I was like, "Tony, you're the highlight," or that section is kind of the highlight for me. I was getting a little worried. I was kind of like, "Okay, where are we going with Chapter 2 here?" Like, and I couldn't help but compare it to the Chapter 1. And I think as it went along, I liked it more. And I think kind of the way I'll conceptualize it is I think Chapter 1 was a lot more plot driven. And I think they had characters that we all know and saw a lot. And a lot of them were from the main show. So that it was a canvas to sort of like make the plot like outrageous and like glitzy and glamorous a bit. And I think for Chapter 2, they went with a lot more of a simplified or much more of a simple plot. And I think they allowed the characters to shine. So I'd say like season 1 was a lot more like plot driven and season 2 was a lot more character driven. And I find that I liked it just as much. I was a little worried there. I was kind of like, oh, this doesn't really compare to season 1 or like get up there. And I think the second half of Chapter 2 like really put it all in perspective for me, especially at the end, the way they left it open-ended, the way they introduced so many new characters that we liked that hopefully will be brought over to the new show, which I think can kind of use a little shot in the arm there. So I think for me, by the end of it, it was on par with Chapter 1, which I loved so much.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Chapter 2 was a little more refined than Chapter 1, only because I feel like there was more of a focus.
And they knew how to do it. Yeah. Chapter 1 was like the first one out the gate, and now
Yeah, and like in chapter one, we got a lot. We had a lot of people, a lot of familiar faces, some faces that we missed and everything like that, and that was great. But I feel like in chapter two, they got to really focus, and they're like, these are the people that we're utilizing. These are the people that we're focusing on. This is the story that we're driving forward with these people. You know what I mean? And so it was just as just as in chapter one, it was, you were very into it and very like, you wanted to see consistently what happened next. And it was the same in chapter two, and I think there were definitely some things that we were expecting and hoping for it to happen, and it did, and I thought they executed everything beautifully, with that, especially with the storytelling, with the introduction of new characters like Wendy and Angela up in heaven, and I think this was just, and this didn't feel like chapter two close. It felt like chapter three, maybe, or moving on to the show, maybe. So it felt like that. So I mean, kudos to everyone in front and behind the camera for making this, this happen. I think I knew that this was going to be a highly anticipated one because of Bo and Hope, but it turned out
it wasn't a letdown.
No,
I think
it wasn't.
A lot of fans. I think someone earlier in the show mentioned like that it might have been a letdown, like maybe, oh, this is just what we're getting of Bo. He's in heaven looking down, and that's it. But they really fulfilled, and getting, and it seems so simple, but getting that song and like the actual version, like that just made such a difference versus if they tried to like pass off another song or another version of it. And so I think they set out to do something, and maybe in their minds they weren't even going to do it unless they could do it right, which doing it right means getting Peter Reckel, Christian Alfonso, getting them in the same space and having those conversations with each other and everything. And it just went, I feel like it was like gold star, A+.
Yeah.
Also seems to me they're moving slightly away from, I felt like chapter one was like, this is separate, won't have any effect on the show, and then that started to creep in a little bit with the Ciara Ben stuff later on in the show, in the actual main show. But I feel like this one, I didn't get so much as like, this is a whole separate entity. I felt like they're moving away from that because they've been able to integrate or make, who knows if Beyond Salem Chapter 3 will be a little bit more of an integration into the main storyline. I don't know. I just felt like chapter one was like, it's a separate story. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to pay attention. And this one was more like, oh, well, we're kind of going to leave it open-ended. So
yeah. But that's what I liked was the kind of synchronization of Beyond Salem and the main show. I haven't watched the main show yet. By the time people view this, I will have, because we have our audition days coming up in a couple of hours.
I've already watched Thursdays and Fridays, or I've watched Wednesdays and Thursdays, have not watched Monday, Tuesdays, or Fridays.
So weird. But I like the synchronization of it, and that's with Ben and Ciara leaving. And then we kind of continue seeing, where they ended up before they again ship off again. So we got like two goodbyes with them. You know what I mean? We got the goodbye off the main show, brought them on to Beyond Salem, saw the goodbye then. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think any of the characters that were in Beyond Salem were on the main show this week. I think I heard there might be an overlap with Marlena.
A little crossover, but not.
There was a tweet that like Marlena jumped on a red eye to Hong Kong when she realized Sammy's wedding was trash.
Yeah.
She was like, well, all right.
There's a little crossover on Friday, but it's nothing you kind of hand wave it away, whatever.
Yeah. And also, the fact that when John called and was like, I'm so sorry I can't make it to Sammy's wedding, it's like, again, reverting back to what's happening on the main show. So I thought that was great. And I hope they continue that to where there's a week where we're gearing up for people to like then head over to Beyond Salem, and you can, kind of watch that. So overall, kudos to everybody for Beyond Salem.
Really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, those have been our thoughts and our recap of Beyond Salem Chapter 2. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. But of course, before we head out, Michael Mattis is letting us know that you can follow us on all social media platforms. We are Dish and Days Show on Facebook, Dish and Days on Instagram, and _ Dish and Days on the Twitter. The act is Sailing Off Living in Sin. We are also on all of your favorite podcast stations. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. So take us along wherever you are. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel while you're here and buy our merch. We are dishanddays.threadless.com. And of course, you can find each of us on our own personal social media platforms. Michael Mattis, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at MLMattis.
Note to self, make a banner for
Make
Michael
a banner.
Mattis.
Yeah.
Justin, where can they find y'all?
Find me on Instagram at Justin Lee Hareld.
And of course, you guys can find little old me on all social media platforms at Lounging with Tony. Thank you, thank you so guys so much thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you in just a little bit for a full dish of this week's episodes of NBC's #1 award-winning hit soap opera, Days of Our Lives. Bye, everybody. Thanks for going Beyond Salem.
Beyond Salem.